This is called following two courses at once.
This might sound crazy, but you could actually make passive income right now.
You and your Jimmy rode from Texas to Tennessee to buy one of my nigger
This is called
No appointment, no nothing.
Oh, I'm afraid so.
Well, what if I was to say I don't like you? Or you fancy pants nigger, and I wouldn't sell you a tinker's damn. Now, what you got to say about that?
Mr. Bennett, if you are the businessman I've been led to believe you to be, I have 5,000 things I might say that could change your mind.
Well, come on inside and get yourself something cool to drink.
Or maybe, while we discuss business, you could provide one of your loveliest black creatures to escort Django here around your magnificent grounds.
Oh, well, absolutely. Bettina.
Yes, sir, Big Daddy.
What's your Jimmy's name again?
Django.
Django. Bettina Sugar, could you take Django there and take him around the grounds here and show him all the pretty stuff?
As you please, Big Daddy.
You and your Jimmy rode from Texas to Tennessee to buy one of my nigger gowns? No appointment, no nothing.
Oh, I'm afraid so.
Well, what if I was to say I don't like you? Or you fancy pants nigger, and I wouldn't sell you a tinker's damn. Now, what you got to say about that?
Mr. Bennett, if you are the businessman I've been led to believe you to be, I have 5,000 things I might say that could change your mind.
Now, this is called following two courses at once. Cutting up an ox. Prince Wen, he is cook, was cutting up an ox. Out went a hand, down went a shoulder. Planted a foot, he pressed with a knee. Yaks fell apart with a whisper. The bright cleaver murmured like a gentle wind. Rhythm tiny like a sacred dance, like the mulberry grove, like ancient harmonies. Good work, the prince exclaimed. Your method is faultless. Method, said the cook, laying aside his cleaver. What I thought was Tao beyond all methods. Then, when I first began to cut up oxen, you will see before me the whole ox, all in one mass. For 3 years I no longer saw this mass. I saw the distinctions, but now I see nothing with my eye. My whole being apprehends. My senses are idle. The spirit, free to work without a plan, following its own instinct, guided by natural line. In the secret opening, the hidden space, my cleaver finds its own way. I cut through no joint, chop no bone. A good cook needs a new... The true man. What is meant by a true man? The true men of old were not afraid when they stood alone in their views. No great exploits, no plans. If they failed, no sorrow, no self-congratulation and success. They scaled cliffs, never dizzy, plunged in water, never wet, walked through fire and were not burnt. Thus, their knowledge reached all the way to Tao. The true men of old slept without dreams, woke without worries. Their food was plain. They breathed deep. True men breathe from their heels, others breathe with their gullets, half strangled. In dispute they heave up arguments like vomit. Where the fountains of passion lie deep, the heavenly springs are soon dry. The true men of old knew no lust for life, no dread of death. Their entrance was without gladness, their exit yonder, without resistance, easy come, easy go. They did not forget where from, nor ask where to, nor drive grimly forward, fighting their way through life. They took life as it came gladly, took death as it came without care, and went away yonder, yonder. They had no mind to fight Tao. They did not try by their own contriving to help Tao along. These are all the ones we call true men. Minds free, thoughts gone, brows clear, faces serene. Were they cool? Only cool as autumn. They were hot, no hotter than spring. All that came out of them came quiet like the four seasons. Metamorphosis. 4 men got in a discussion. Each one said, who knows how to have the void for his head, to have life as his backbone and death as his tail? He shall be my friend. At this they all looked at one another, saw they agreed, burst out laughing, and became friends. And one of them fell ill, and another went to see him. Great is the Maker, said the sick one, who has made me as I am. I am so doubled up, my guts are over my head. Upon my navel I rest my cheek. My shoulders stand out beyond my neck. My crown is an ulcer surveying the sky. My body is chaos, but my mind is in order. He dragged himself to the wall, saw his reflection, and declared, what a mess he has made of me. His friend asked, are you discouraged? Not at all. Why should I be? If he takes me apart and makes a rooster of my left shoulder, I shall announce the dawn. If he makes a crossbow of my right shoulder, I shall procure roast duck. If my buttocks turn into wheels, and if my spirit is a horse, I will hitch myself up and ride around in my own wagon. There is a time for putting together and another time for taking apart. He who understands this course of events takes each new state in its proper time, with neither sorrow nor joy. The ancients said the hanged man cannot cut himself down, but in due time nature is stronger than all his ropes and bonds. It was always so. Where is there a reason to be discouraged? Man is born in Tao. Fishes are born in water. Man is born in Tao. If fishes born in water seek the deep shadow of pond and pool, all their needs are satisfied. If man born in Tao sinks into the deep shadow of non-action, to forget aggression and concern, he lacks nothing, his life is secure. Moral, all the fish needs is to get lost in water, all man needs is to get lost in Tao. Two kings and no form. The South Sea King was act on your hunch. The North Sea King was act in a flash. The king of the place between them was no form. How South Sea King and North Sea King used to go together often to the land of no form. He treated them well. So they consulted together. They thought up a good turn, a pleasant surprise for no form in token of appreciation. Men, they said, have 7 openings for seeing, hearing, eating, breathing, and so on, but no form has no openings. Let's make him a few holes. So after that they put holes in no form, 1 a day for 7 days, and when they finished the 7th opening, their friend lay dead. Lao Tan said, to organize is to destroy. Cracking the safe. For security against robbers who snatch purses, rifle luggage, and crack safes, one must fasten all property with ropes, lock it up with locks, bolt it with bolts. This for property owners is elementary good sense. But when a strong thief comes along, he picks up the whole lot, puts it on his back, and goes on his way with only one fear, that ropes, locks, and bolts may give way. Thus, when the world calls good business, is only a way to gather up the loot, pack it, make it secure in one convenient load for the more enterprising thieves. Who is there among those called smart, who does not spend his time amassing loot for a bigger robber than himself? In the land of Ki, from village to village, you could hear cocks crowing, dogs barking, fishermen cast their nets. Plowmen plowed the wide fields. Everything was neatly marked out by boundary lines. 400 or 500 square miles. There were temples for ancestors, altars for field gods, and corn spirits. Every canton, county, and district was run according to the laws and statutes, until one morning the Attorney General, Tian Kang Zhu, did away with the king and took over the whole estate. Was he content to steal the land? No. He also took over the laws and statutes at the same time, and all the lawyers with them, not to mention the police. They all formed part of the same package. Of course, people called King Zhu a robber, but they left him alone to live as happy as the patriarchs. No small state would say a word against him. No large state would make a move in his direction. So for 12 generations, the state of Qi belonged to his family. No one interfered with his inalienable rights. The invention of weights and measures makes robbery easier. Signing contracts, setting seals, makes robbery more sure. Teaching love and duty provides a fitting language with which to prove that robbery is really for the general good. A poor man must swing for stealing a belt buckle, but if a rich man steals a whole state, he is acclaimed as Statesman of the Year. Hence, if you want to hear the very best speeches on love, duty, justice, etc., listen to statesmen. But when the creek dries up, nothing grows in the valley. When the mound is leveled, the hollow next to it is filled, and when the statesmen and lawyers and preachers of duty disappear, there are no more robberies either, and the world is at peace. Moral, the more you pile up ethical principles and duties and obligations to bring everyone in line, the more you gather loot. For a thief like King, by ethical argument and moral principle, the greatest crimes are eventually shown to have been necessary and, in fact, a signal benefit to mankind.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical.
Check out this handy bag that I got from TikTok Shop. I use it to store my grandma's food.
If when you play piano, you have problems coordinating your hands or moving your fingers, then...
If we were as intent upon our own business as the old fellows at Rome are upon what interests them, we too might perhaps accomplish something. I know a man older than I am, now superintendent of the corn market at Rome, and remember when he passed through this place on his way back from exile, what an account he gave me of his former life, declaring that for future, once home again, his only care should be to pass his remaining years in quiet and tranquility. For how few years have I left, he cried. That, I said, you will not do. But the moment the scent of Rome is in your nostrils, you will forget it all, and if you can but gain admission to court, you'll be glad enough to elbow your way in, and thank God for it. Epictetus, he replied, if you ever find me setting as much as 1 foot within the court, think what you will of me. Well, as it was, what did he do ere ever he entered the city? He was met by dispatch from the emperor. He took it and forgot the whole of his resolutions. From that moment he has been piling one thing upon another. I should like to be beside him to remind him of what he said when passing this way, and to add how much better a prophet I am than you. What then? Do I say man is not made for an active life? Far from it, but there is a great difference between other men's occupations and ours. A glance at theirs will make it clear to you all day long they do nothing but calculate, contrive, consult how to wring their profit out of foodstuffs, farm plots, and the like. Whereas I entreat you to learn what the administration of the world is, and what place it being endowed with reason holds therein, to consider what you are yourself, and wherein your good and evil consists. A man asked me to write to Rome on his behalf who, as most people thought, had met with misfortune, for having been before wealthy and distinguished, he had afterwards lost all and was living here. So I wrote about him in a humble style. He, however, on reading the letter, returned it to me with the words, I asked for your help, not for your pity. No evil has happened unto me. True instruction is this, to learn to wish that each thing should come to pass as it does. And how does it come to pass? As the disposer has disposed it, now he has disposed that there should be summer and winter, and plenty and dearth, and vice and virtue, and all such opposites for the harmony of the whole. Have this thought ever present with thee, when thou losest any outward thing, what thou gainest in its stead, and if this be the more precious, say not, I have suffered loss. Concerning the gods, there are who deny the very existence of the Godhead. Others say that it exists, but neither bestows nor concerns itself, nor has forethought for anything. Third party attribute to it existence and forethought, but only for great and heavenly matters, not for anything that is on earth. A fourth party admit things on earth as well as in heaven, but only in general, and not with respect to each individual. A fifth of whom were Ulysses and Socrates, are those that cry, I move not without thy knowledge. Considering all these things, the good and true man submits his judgment to him that administers the universe, even as good citizens, to the law of the state. And he that is being instructed should come thus minded, how may I in all things follow the gods, and how may I satisfied with the divine administration, and how may I become free, for he is free for whom all things come to pass, according to his will, and whom none can hinder. What then is freedom? Madness? God forbid, for madness and freedom exist not together. and I wish all that I desire to come to pass, and in the manner that I desire. You are mad, you are beside yourself. Know you not that freedom is a glorious thing and of great worth? But that what I desired at random, I should wish at random to come to pass, so far from being noble, may well be exceeding base. You must know that it is no easy thing for a principle to become a man's own unless each day he maintained it and hear it maintained as well as work it out in life. You are impatient and hard to please. If alone you call it solitude, if in the company of men you dub them conspirators and thieves and find fault with your very parents, children, brothers, and neighbors, whereas when by yourself you should have called it tranquility and freedom, and herein deemed yourself like unto the gods. And when in the company of the many you should not have called it a weirdsome crowd and tumult, but an assembly and a tribunal, and thus accepted all with contentment. What then is the chastisement of those who accept it? Not to be as they are. Is any discontented with being alone? Let him be in solitude. Is any discontented with his parents? Let him be a bad son and lament. Is any discontented with his children? Let him be a bad father. Throw him into prison. What prison? Where he is already, for he is there against his will. And wherever a man is against his will, there to him is a prison. Thus Socrates was not in prison, since he was there with his own consent. Knowing thou what a speck thou art in comparison with the universe. That is, with respect to the body, since with respect to reason, thou art not inferior to the gods, no less than they. For the greatness of reason is not measured by length or height, but by the resolves of the mind. Place then thy happiness in that wherein thou art equal to the gods. Asked how a man might eat acceptably to the gods, Epictetus replied, if when he eats he can be just, cheerful, equable, temperate, and orderly, can he not thus eat acceptably to the gods? But when you call for warm water and your slave does not answer, or when he answers brings it lukewarm, or is not even found to be in the house at all, then not to be vexed nor burst with anger, is not that acceptable to the gods? But how can one endure such people? Slave, will you not endure your own brother, that has God to his forefather, even as a son sprung from the same stock, and of the same high descent as yourself? And if you are stationed in a high position, are you therefore forthwith to set up for a tyrant? Remember who you are and whom you rule, that they are by nature your kinsmen, your brothers, the offspring of God. But I paid a price for them, not they for me. Do you see whither you are looking? Down to the earth, to the pie, to the pit, to those despicable laws of the dead? But to the laws of the gods you do not look. When we are invited to a banquet, we take what is set before us, and were one to call upon his host to set fish upon the table, or sweet things, he would be deemed absurd. Yet in a word, we ask the gods for what they do not give, and that although they have given us so many things. Asked how a man might convince himself that every single act of this was under the eye of God, Epictetus answered, do you not hold that all things are bound together in one? I do. Well, and do you not hold that things on earth and things in heaven are continuous and in unison with each other? I do, was the reply. Else how should the trees so regularly, as though by God's command, at his bidding flower, at his bidding send forth shoots, bear fruit and ripen it, at his bidding let it fall and shed their leaves, folded up upon themselves lie in quietness and rest? How else, as the moon waxes and wanes, as the sun approaches and recedes, can it be that such vicissitude and alternation is seen in earthly things? If then all things that grow, nay, our own bodies are thus bound up with the whole, is it not this still truer of the souls? And if our souls are bound up and in contact with God as being very parts and fragments plucked from himself, shall he not feel every movement of theirs as though it were his own, and belonging to his own nature? But you say, I cannot comprehend all this at once. Why, who told you that your powers were equal to God's? Yet God hath placed by the side of each a man's own guardian spirit. To the Stoics, the guardian spirit was each man's reason, who is charged to watch over him, a guardian who sleeps, nor is deceived. For to what better or more watchful guardian could he have committed each of us?
Marcus is a connoisseur of anything that's free. So he was happy to read the disclaimer on TurboTax Free Edition.
Roughly 37% of taxpayers qualify. Form 1040 and limited credits only. See how at turbotax.com. That's me!
File your taxes 100% free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your max refund guaranteed. Make your moves count. See if you qualify at turbotax.com.
Therapy, for me, came at a time that was really pivotal. Becoming a new father, I needed more support. I have an extensive collection of regulatory tools up my sleeve. Meditation, breath work, yoga. I have put the time and attention into building out a framework that works for me, but it doesn't always work. So I signed up with BetterHelp. You fill out a questionnaire that outlines your objectives, your preferences, and the areas and styles of therapy that you would like to explore. You can communicate with your therapist via messages, phone calls, live video sessions, and even journal entries. And I'm really grateful to have matched right off the bat with a therapist who really saw me and has helped to illuminate some blind spots and provided me with the support and insight to apply that new awareness, and it has been transformative. There are no copy-paste formulas for healing. Therapy should be as unique as you are. It is a space just for you and what you need now. Sign up to BetterHelp today and see what's possible.
So when you have shut the doors and made a darkness within, remember never to say that you are alone, for you are not alone, but God is within, and your guardian spirit. What light do they need to behold what you do? To this God you also should have sworn allegiance, even as soldiers unto Caesar. They, when their service is hired, swear to hold the life of Caesar dearer than all else. And will you not swear your oath that are deemed worthy of so many and great gifts? And will you not keep your oath when you have sworn it? And what oath will you swear? Never to disobey, never to arraign or murmur at aught that comes to you from his hand, never unwillingly to do or suffer aught that necessity lays upon you. Is this oath like theirs? I swear to hold no other dearer than Caesar, you to hold our true selves dearer than all else beside. How shall my brother cease to be wroth with me? Bring him to me, and I will tell him. But to thee I have nothing to say about his anger. When one took counsel of Epictetus, saying, what I seek is this, how even though my brother be not reconciled to me, I may still remain as nature would have me to be. He replied, all great things are slow of growth. Nay, this is true even of a grape or of a fig. If then you say to me, now I desire a fig, I shall answer, it needs time. Wait till it first flower, then cast its blossom, then ripen. Whereas when the fruit of the fig tree reaches not maturity suddenly, nor yet in a single hour, do you nevertheless desire so quickly and easily to reap the fruit to the mind of man? Nay, expect it not, even though I bade you. Epaphroditus had a shoemaker whom he sold as being good for nothing. This fellow by some accident was afterwards purchased by one of Caesar's men, and became shoemaker to Caesar. You should have seen what respect Epaphroditus paid him then. How does the good Felicion? Kindly let me know. And if any of us inquired, what is Epaphroditus doing? The answer was, he is consulting about so and so with Felicion. Had he not sold him as good for nothing, who had in a trice converted him into a wiseacre? This is what comes of holding of importance anything but the things that depend on will. What you shun, enduring yourself, attempt not to impose on others. You shun slavery. Beware of enslaving others. If you can endure to do that, one would think you had been once upon a time a slave yourself. For vice has nothing in common with virtue, nor freedom with slavery. Has a man been raised to the tribuneship? Every one that he meets congratulates him. One kisses him on the eyes, another on the neck. while the slaves kiss his hands. He goes home to find torches burning. He ascends to the capital to sacrifice whoever sacrificed for having had right desires, for having conceived such inclinations as nature would have him. In truth, we thank the gods for that wherein we place our happiness. A man was talking to me today about the priesthood of Augustus. I said to him, "Let the thing go, my good sir. You will spend a great deal to no purpose." "Well, but my name will be inserted in all the documents and contracts. Will you be standing there to tell those that read them, that is my name written there? And even though you could now be there in every case, what will you do when you are dead? At all events, my name will remain. Inscribe it on a stone, and it will remain just as well, and think beyond Nicopolis, what memory of you will there be? But I shall have a golden wreath to wear. If you must have a wreath, get a wreath of roses and put it on. You will look more elegant. Above all, remember that the door stands open. Be not more fearful than children, but as they, when they weary of the game, cry, I will play no more. Even so, when thou art in the like case, cry, I will play no more, and depart. But if thou stayest, make no lamentation. Is there smoke in the room? If it be slight, I remain. If grievous, I quit it. For you must remember this and hold it fast. The door stands open. You should not dwell at Nicopolis, well and good, nor at Athens. And I will not dwell at Athens either, nor at Rome. Nor at Rome either. You shall dwell in Gyara. Well, but to dwell in Gyara seems to me like a grievous smoke. Depart to a place where none can forbid me to dwell. That habitation is open to all. For as for the last garment of all, that is the poor body. Beyond that, none cannot do aught unto me. This is why Demetrius said to Nero, you threaten me with death, but it is nature who threatens you. The beginning of philosophy is to know the condition of one's own mind. If a man recognizes that this is in a weakly state, he will not then want to apply it to questions of the greatest moment. As it is, men who are not fit to swallow even a morsel buy whole treatises and try to devour them. Accordingly, they either vomit them up again or suffer from indigestion, whence come gripings, fluxions, and fevers, whereas they should have stopped to consider their capacity. In theory, it is easy to convince an ignorant person. In actual life, men not only object to offer themselves to be convinced, but hate the man who has convinced them. Whereas Socrates used to say that we should never lead a life not subjected to examination. This is the reason why Socrates, when reminded that he should prepare for his trial, answered, Thinkest thou not that I have been preparing for it all my life? In what way? I have maintained that which in me lay. How so? I have never secretly, openly done wrong unto any. In what character dost thou now come forward? As a witness summoned by God. Come thou, saith God, and testify for me, for thou art worthy of being brought forward as a witness by me. Is aught that is outside thy will either good or bad? Do I hurt any man? Have I placed the good of each in the power of any other than himself? What witness dost thou bear to God? I am in evil state, master, I am undone. None careth for me, none giveth me aught. All men blame, all speak evil of me. Is this the witness thou wilt bear, and do dishonor to the calling wherewith he hath called thee? Because he hath done thee so great honor, and deemed thee worthy of being summoned to bear witness in so great a cause? Wouldst thou have men speak good of thee? Speak good of them, and when thou hast learned to speak good of them, try to do good unto them, and thus thou wilt reap in return their speaking good of thee. When thou goest into any of the great, remember that another from above sees what is passing, and that thou shouldest please him rather than man. He therefore asks thee, Is this in the schools? What didst thou call exile, imprisonment, bonds, death, and shame? I call them different things, and I call them things indifferent. What then dost thou call them now? Are they at all changed? No. It is then thou that art changed? No. Say then, what are things indifferent? Things that are not in our power. Say then what follows, that things which are not in our power are nothing to me. Say also what things you hold to be good, a will such as it ought to be, and a right use of the things of sense. And what is the end? To follow thee. That Socrates should ever have been so treated by the Athenians, slave. Why say Socrates? Speak of the thing as it is. That ever then the poor body of Socrates should have been dragged away and haled by main force to prison. That ever hemlock should have been given to the body of Socrates. That should have breathed its life away. Do you marvel at this? Do you hold this unjust? Is it for this that you accuse God? Had Socrates no compensation for this? Where then for him was the ideal good? Whom shall we hearken to, you or him? And what says he? Anytus and Miletus may put me to death, to injure me is beyond their power. And again, if such be the will of God, so let it be. Nay, young man, for heaven's sake, but once thou hast heard these words, go home and say to thyself, it is not Epictetus that has told me these things, how indeed should he? No, it is some gracious God through him, else it would never have entered his head to tell me them. He that is not used to speak to any one thus, well then, let us not lie under the wrath of God, but be obedient unto him. Nay, indeed, but if a raven by its croaking bears thee any sign, it is not the raven, but God that sends the sign through the raven. And if he signifies anything to thee through human voice, will he not cause the man to say these words to thee, that thou mayest know the power of the divine? How he sends a sign to some in one way, and to others in another, and on the greatest and highest matters of all signifies his will through the noblest messenger. What else does the poet mean? I spake unto him erst myself, and sent Hermes in the shining, one to check and warn him, the husband not to slay, nor woo the wife. In the same way, my friend Heraclitus, who had a trifling suit about a petty farm at Rhodes, first showed the judges that his cause was just, and then at the finish cried, I will not entreat you, nor do I care what sentence you pass. It is you who are on your trial, not I. And so he ended the case. As for us, we behave like a herd of deer. When they flee from the huntsman's feathers in affright, which way do they turn? What haven of safety do they make for? Why, they rush upon the nets. Thus they perish by confounding what they should fear with that wherein no danger lies. Not death or pain is to be feared, but the fear of death or pain. Well said the poet, therefore, death has no terror, only a death of shame. How is it then that certain external things are said to be natural, and others contrary to nature? Why, just as it might be said if we stood alone and apart from others, a foot, for instance, I will allow it is natural should be clean, but if you take it as a foot, and as a thing which does not stand by itself, it will beseem it, if need be, to walk in the mud, to tread on thorns, and sometimes even to be cut off, for the benefit of the whole body. Else it is no longer a foot. In some such way we should conceive of ourselves also. What art thou, a man? Looked at as standing by thyself and separate, it is natural for thee in health and wealth long to live. But looked at as a man and only as a part of a whole, it is for that whole's sake that thou shouldst at one time fall sick, at another brave the perils of the sea again, know the meaning of want and perhaps die an early death. Why then repine? Knowest thou not that as the foot is no more a foot if detached from the body, so thou in like case art no longer a man? For what is a man? A part of a city. First of the city of gods and of men, next of that which ranks nearest it, a miniature of the universal city. In such a body, in such a world enveloping us, among lives like these, such things must happen to one or another. A part then being there is to speak of these things as is meet, and to order them as befits the matter.
This week only, carry out large 2-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each at Domino's. What are you waiting for? Order now!
These things as is meet, and to order them as befits the matter. That was a good reply which Diogenes made to a man who asked him for letters of recommendation. That you are a man, he will know when he sees you whether a good or a bad one. he will know if he has any skill in discerning the good and the bad. But if he has none, he will never know, though I write to him 1,000 times. It is as though a piece of silver money desired to be recommended to someone to be tested. If the man be a good judge of silver, he will know the coin will tell its own tale. Even as the traveler asks his way of him that he meets, inclined in no wise to bear to the right rather than to the left, for he desires only the way leading whither he would go, so should we come unto God as to a guide, even as we use our eyes without admonishing them, to show us some things rather than others, but content to receive the images of such things as they present unto us. But as it is, we stand anxiously watching the victim, and with the voice of supplication call upon the augur, Master, have mercy on me, vouchsafe unto me a way of escape. Slave, would you then have aught else than what is best? Is there anything better than what is God's good pleasure? Why, as far as in you lies, would you corrupt your judge and lead your counselor astray? God is beneficent, but the good also is beneficent. It should seem then that where the real nature of God is, there too is to be found the real nature of the good. What then is the real nature of God? Intelligence, knowledge, right, reason. Here then, without more ado, seek the real nature of the good. For surely thou dost not seek it in a plant or in an animal that reasoneth not. Seek then the real nature of the good in that without whose presence thou wilt not admit the good to exist in aught else. What then? Are not these other things also works of God? They are, but not preferred to honor, nor are they portions of God. But thou art a thing preferred to honor, thou art thyself a fragment torn from God. Thou hast a portion of him within thyself. How is it then that thou dost not know thy high descent, dost not know whence thou comest? Dost not know whence thou comest? When thou eatest, wilt thou not remember who thou art that eatest, and whom thou feedest? In intercourse, in exercise, in discussion, knowest thou not that it is a God whom thou feedest? A God whom thou exercisest? A God whom thou bearest about with thee, O miserable, and thou perceivest it not. Thinkest thou that I speak of a God of silver or gold that is without thee? Nay, thou bearest him within thee, all unconscious of polluting him with thoughts impure and unclean deeds. Were an image of God present, thou wouldst not dare to act as thou dost. Yet when God himself is present within thee, beholding and hearing all, thou dost not blush to think that such thoughts and do such deeds. O thou that art insensible of thine own nature, and liest under the wrath of God, why then are we afraid when we send a young man from the schools into active life, lest he should indulge his appetites intemperately, lest he should debase himself by ragged clothing, or be puffed up by fine raiment? Knowest he not the God within him? Knowest he not with whom he is starting on his way? Have we patience to hear him say to us, Would I had thee within me? Hast thou not God where thou art, and having him dost thou still seek for any other? Would he tell thee aught what else than these things? Why wert thou a statue of Phidias, an Athena, or a Zeus? Thou wouldst bethink thee both of thyself and thine artificer, and hadst thou any sense, thou wouldst strive to do no dishonor to thyself or him that fashioned thee, nor appear to beholders in unbefitting guise. But now, because God is thy maker, is that why thou carest not of that of what sort thou shalt know thyself to be. Yet how different the artists and their workmanship. What human artists' work, for example, has in the faculties that are displayed in fashioning it. Is it aught but marble, bronze, gold, or ivory? Nay, when the Athena of Phidias has put forth her hand and received therein a victory, in that attitude she stands forevermore. But God's works move and breathe, they use and judge the things of sense, the workmanship of such an artist. Wilt thou dishonor him? Aye, when he not only fashioned thee, but placed thee like a ward in the care and guardianship of thyself alone, wilt thou not only forget this, but also do dishonor to what is committed to thy care? If God had entrusted thee with an orphan, wouldst thou have thus neglected him? He hath delivered thee to thine own care, saying, I had none more faithful than myself. Keep this man for me, such as nature hath made him, modest, faithful, high-minded, a stranger to fear, to passion, to perturbation. Such will I show myself to you all, what exempt from sickness also, from age, from death. Nay, but accepting sickness, accepting death as becomes a god. No labor, according to Diogenes, is good, but that which aims at producing courage and strength of soul, rather than of body. A guide on finding a man who has lost his way brings him back to the right path. He does not mock and jeer at him, and then take himself off. You also must show the unlearned man the truth, and you will see that he will follow, but so long as you do not show it to him. You should not mock, but rather feel your own incapacity. It was the first and most striking characteristic of Socrates never to become heated in discourse, never to utter an injurious or insulting word. On the contrary, he persistently bore insult from others, and thus put an end to the fray. If you care to know the extent of his power in this direction, read Xenophon's Banquet, and you will see how many quarrels he put an end to. That is why the poets are right in so highly commending this faculty. Quickly and wisely, with all, even bitter feuds, would he settle. Nevertheless, the practice is not very safe at present, especially in Rome. One who adopts it, I need not say, ought not to carry it out in an obscure corner, but boldly accost, if occasion serve some personage of rank or wealth. Can you tell me, sir, to whose care you entrust your horses? I can. Is it to the first comer who knows nothing about them? Certainly not. Well, what of the man who takes care of your gold, your silver, or your raiment? He must be experienced also. And your body? Have you ever considered about entrusting it to anyone's care? Of course I have. And no doubt to a person of experience, as a trainer, a physician, surely. Are these things the best you possess, or have you anything more precious? What can you mean? I mean, that which employs thee, which weighs all things, which takes counsel and resolve. Oh, you mean the soul. You take me rightly, I do mean the soul. By heaven, I hold that far more precious than all else I possess. Can you show me, then, what care you bestow on the soul? For it can scarcely be thought that a man of your wisdom and consideration in the city would suffer your most precious possession to go to ruin through carelessness and neglect. Certainly not. Well, do you take care of it yourself? Did anyone teach you the right method, or did you discover it yourself? Now here comes in the danger. First, the great man may answer, Why, what is it that to you, my good fellow? Are you my master? And then, if you persist in troubling him, may raise his hand to strike you. It is a practice of which I was myself warm admirer until such experiences as these befell me. When a youth was giving himself airs in the theatre and saying, I am wise, for I have conversed with many wise, Epictetus replied, I too have conversed with many rich men, yet I am not rich. We see that a carpenter becomes a carpenter by learning certain things, like that of a pilot. By learning certain things becomes a pilot. Possibly also in the present case, the mere desire to be wise and good is not enough. It is necessary to learn certain things. This is then the object of our search. The philosophers would have us first learn that there is a God, and that his providence directs the universe. Further, that to hide from him not only one's acts, but even one's thoughts and intentions is impossible. Secondly, what the nature of God is, whatever the nature is discovered to be, the man ease and his might to made like to him. If the divine is faithful, he also must be faithful. If free, he also must be free. If beneficent, he also must be beneficent. If magnanimous, he also must be magnanimous. Thus, as an imitator of God, must he follow him in every deed and word. If I show you that you lack just what is most important and necessary to happiness, that hitherto your attention has been bestowed on everything rather than that which claims it most, and to crown all, that you know neither what God nor man is, neither what God nor evil is, why, that you are ignorant of everything else, perhaps you may bear to be told, but to hear that you know nothing of yourself, how could you submit to that? How could you stand your ground and suffer that to be proved? Clearly not at all. You instantly turn away in wrath. Yet what harm have I done you? Unless indeed the mirror harms the ill-favored man by showing him to himself just as he is, unless the physician can be thought to insult his patient when he... Do you suppose there is nothing new? Why, you have a fever, eat nothing today and drink only water. Yet no one says what an insufferable man. Your desires are inflamed, your instinct action are weak and low, your aims are inconsistent, your impulses are not in harmony with nature, your opinions are rash and false. He forthwith goes away and complains that you have insulted him. Our way of life resembles a fair. The flocks and herds are passed along to be sold, and the greater part of the crowd to buy and sell. But there are some few who come only to look at the fair, to inquire how and why it is being held, upon what authority and with what object. So too, in this great fair of life, some, like the cattle, trouble themselves about nothing but the fodder. Know all of you, who are busied about land, slaves, and public posts, that there are nothing but fodder. Some few things are attending the fair, who love to contemplate what the world is, what he that administers it. Can there be no administrator? Is it possible that while neither city nor household could endure even for a moment without one to administer and see to its welfare, this fabric so fair, so vast, should be administered in order so harmonious, without a purpose, and by blind chance? There is therefore an administrator. What is his nature, and how much and how does he administer? Who are we that are his children, and what work were we born to perform? Have we any close connection or relation with him or not? Such are the impressions of the few of whom I speak, and further they apply themselves solely to considering and examining the great assembly before they depart. Where they are derided by the multitude, so are the lookers-on by the traders. Aye, and if the beasts had any sense, they would deride those who thought much of anything but fodder. I think I know now what I never knew before, the meaning of the common saying, a fool you can neither bend nor break. Pray heaven I may never have a wise fool for my friend. There is nothing more intractable, my resolve is fixed. Why, so madmen say too, but the more firmly they believe in the delusions, the more they stand in need of treatment. Oh, what shall I see Athens and its Acropolis again? Miserable man, art thou not contented with the daily sights and meet thine eyes? Canst thou behold aught greater or nobler than the sun, moon, and stars, than the outspread earth and sea? If indeed thou apprehendest him who administers the universe, if thou bearest him about within thee, canst thou still hanker after mere fragments of stone and a fine rock?
Strong enamel is your best defense against erosion and cavities. Reinforce that defense with Pronamel Active Shield.
After mere fragments of stone and a fine rock. When thou art about to bid farewell to the sun and moon itself, wilt thou sit down and cry like a child? Why, what didst thou hear? What didst thou learn? Why didst thou write thyself down a philosopher when thou mightest have written what was the fact, namely, I have made 1 or 2 compendiums. I have read some works of Chrysippus, and I have not even touched the hem of philosophy's robe. Friend, lay hold with a desperate grasp ere it is too late on freedom, on tranquility, on greatness of soul. Lift up thy thread, lift up thy head as one escaped from slavery. Dare to look up to God and say, deal with me henceforth as thou wilt. Thou and I are of one mind. I am thine, I refuse nothing that seemeth good to thee. Lead on whither thou wilt, clothe me in what garb thou pleasest. Wilt thou have me a ruler or a subject, at home or in exile, poor or rich? All these things will I justify unto men for thee. I will show the true nature of each. Who would Hercules have been had he loitered at home? No Hercules, but Eurystheus. And in his wanderings through the world, how many friends and comrades did he find, but nothing dearer to him than God? Wherefore he was believed to be God's son, as indeed he was. So then, in obedience to him, he went about delivering the earth from injustice and lawlessness. But thou art not Hercules, thou sayest, and canst not deliver others from their iniquity, not even Theseus to deliver the soil of Attica from its monsters. Put away thine own, cast forth thence from thine own mind, that robbers and monsters but fear, desire, envy, malignity, avarice, effeminacy, intemperance, and these may not be cast out except by looking to God alone, by fixing thy affections on him only, and by consecrating thyself to him.